I don't deserve, I'm no good, I hate myself. Ring a bell? Sound familiar? Now some people call this negative self-talk and others call it the inner critic. However, I call it you. You see, we have to take responsibility for everything in our lives, and the internal critic, the perceived internal critic, is one thing that we really have to come to terms with and just admit that it is us, but it's not us. And that's what I want to throw some clarity over for you today. I want to help you see the difference and understand what's really going on, because people assume that this voice that they can hear in their head that's beating them up all the time and putting them down, they assume that's them in the now. So let's take a look at what's really happening. You see, there are two sides to your mind. I'll put some notes up here. Bing! The first is your conscious mind, of which you're paying attention and focusing and concentrating on me in the now. The other side is the unconscious mind. Now, when you're aware and when you're alert is how you tell the difference. You see, you're alert and you're listening to me now, so that internal tape player has been switched off. The old negative self-talk cannot be heard because you're consciously taking control and you're listening to me on this video. But however, when you lose concentration, when you're relaxing, you become unaware, and that's when the unconscious autopilot turns on. And it starts playing some of your old self-talk, the way you used to talk to yourself when you were much younger. And really what you need to do is understand what's going on. You see, when you were a child and you didn't feel good about yourself because of what was going on around you, you learned to talk to yourself in a particular way. And if we fast forward many years in the here and the now, those old tapes, those old self-statements of yourself putting yourself down are still being played to you at every opportunity of when you become unaware. Because when you're aware, you're concentrating, you're focused, and you're very much in the now. And if anything, you're going to talk to yourself in a supporting and positive way because you've got to get something done. But as soon as you relax or you get a little bit bored, you become unaware. Mentally and consciously, you sort of switch off. And when that happens, the unconscious mind switches on the autopilot. Because from a higher perspective, what's happening is every time you become unaware, your higher self is going to remind you of some of the negative programming that's playing in the background, because it wants to draw your attention to it, because that's your greatest teacher in disguise. That negative self-talk is highlighting to you areas that you need to work on. But we don't. We see it as us in the now, and we get all upset. So it's about recognizing the difference between when you're consciously aware and when you drift off a little bit. We all have experiences of driving down the road and not remembering having completed that journey, but somehow we did, and what was really happening was our unconscious was driving the car for us, because we were consciously thinking about 101 other things. You see, when you drive a car regularly and you pay attention, something happens. When we learn a new skill like driving the car, once we've learned how to do that, it gets put in the autopilot system in the unconscious so that we can do it without thinking. Now what you really need to do is pay attention to how you're feeling, because that is your guide. When you're consciously aware, you're feeling good, but when you drift off a little bit, sometimes the thoughts change and that promotes a different feeling. And when you notice that feeling, become aware of it. Okay, interact with it consciously, take control of the situation, recognize that it's the unconscious Dave playing and not the conscious Dave that's here in the now and fully alert. You see, my self-talk doesn't support me sometimes, but it's usually when I'm bored or not paying attention. Then the autopilot switches on, and sometimes I will think that's me in the now because I can hear it in my voice in the now, but that's really just my mental interpretation. It's actually me from a long time ago. It's the old David playing, and the reason it still plays is because my higher self wants to make me aware that there's some negativity still going on, and if I just pay attention to it and interact with it and focus on what it was putting me down about, was it money, was it relationships, was it not good enough, if you can just stop it and interact, switch off the autopilot, pay attention to how you feel in that moment, what was it beating you up about, because that's you'll learn your greatest teacher, that internal negative self-talk, is going to keep reminding you that there's little bits of work that you still need to do. Now, don't get upset when you hear yourself putting yourself down. Just become aware that it's not you in the now. The you in the now has got the power to take control. And recognise that that is the old you. That's the unconscious tape player, and it's been switched on to autopilot because you just lost concentration and drifted off for a moment in time. And that is your higher self's opportunity to play you some negativity, to remind you that there's still work to do. So don't get upset, don't get angry with the negative self-talk. Simply find a way to become aware of when it's playing, and then remind yourself that that's the old you. What was it beating you up about? And then tap. You can simply tap the collarbone. With a couple of fingers, you can just tap round the collarbone and smile. Be grateful because you've just been shown something that you can clear. And then willingly in your mind, choose to release the feeling. Just tap on the collarbone. Smile. Feel good. Become grateful that this has been shown to you. Don't react like a little child and throw your teddy in the corner. Respond. Become even. Get balanced. Become neutral. So you can neutralise that self-talk, but you've just got to pay attention to how you feel. When your feelings change, that's going to be in response to how you've been thinking. So you have to backtrack a little bit and say, okay, what was I beating myself up on? Because that's my greatest teacher. That's something I can clear now. That's something positive I can do to move forward. So I hope that's been helpful. It's just a quick guide to give you a few tips, and I'll be back in a few days with another video. So if there's any questions that you have, use the forum below. Get some chat going. Share this on Facebook if you've got friends that are always beating themselves up. And there's also a link down there if you want to work with me one-to-one on some private coaching, because I like to help people accelerate their potential. And sometimes you just need a good coach on your side. So thanks for your time today. You've been a wonderful audience, and I'll see you again in a few days. Take care.